Are you an overwhelmed SaaS founder ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where love is sharing your French fries, even after she said she didn't want any. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you scale from 7 to 8 figures, creating a business you're proud of while never missing Valentine's Days, birthdays, anniversaries, school plays, or other moments that count. Well, happy Valentine's Day, y'all. Today is a day to celebrate love and let those you care about know how much you value them. Did you know that worldwide people exchange over 1 billion Valentine's Day cards each year? That's the largest seasonal card sending occasion of the year, next to Christmas. 1/3 of all Valentine's cards comes with gifts, which that's a pretty cool thing. And you could probably guess the most common gifts: chocolate and flowers. And while 75% of chocolate purchases during the year are made by women, during the days and let's face it, minutes before Valentine's Day, 75% of the chocolate purchases made by men. Yep. Over $1 billion of chocolate is purchased for Valentine's Day. That's pretty good. 110 million roses, the majority of those red, will be sold and delivered within a 3-day time period. Probably, I'd say maybe 100 million of those between 4 and 6 p.m. today, because we don't plan a whole lot. In fact, the United States, 64% of men do not make plans in advance for a romantic Valentine's Day with their sweethearts. What's up with that? But then again, I have no idea what we're doing today. Just kidding. We actually celebrated over the weekend, kind of combined it with Super Bowl. So win-win. Do you know who receives the most Valentine's Day cards? And it's a group. It's not like a person. But I was a little surprised. And the answer is teachers, which it makes perfect sense. And if there's anyone who deserves an extra scoop of love, it is our teachers. They're absolute heroes. So I was really kind of happy to see that as well, and love our teachers. Not to be left out, about 3% of pet owners will give Valentine's Day gifts to their pets. I gave my dog Thor a card last year. I mean, he's pretty smart, but even at 8, he still can't read. So I don't know if that means that he's maybe not as smart as I thought. I mean, you guys can let me know. I mean, can your dogs read? Well, wherever you are, whoever you're with or not, I hope today is a great day of love and appreciation for you. And from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate you hanging out here with me on SaaS Fuel, because you're the reason I do this. You are the reason the podcast exists, and it's all about serving you. And I really do appreciate you being here and value your feedback and love to hear from you. Well, we always love our sponsors. And today's sponsor is SaaS Open. Join 1,000 SaaS leaders, get an inside look at the future of software, and spend time with people that are making it happen. There'll be 5 stages with valuable content delivered in short 20-minute segments, specifically built for SaaS founders, CMOs, heads of product, sales, and engineering. The best way to predict the future is to create it. So come do that with us March 16th and 17th in New York City. I'll be there. Some of my team will be there, and would love to meet you. Get full details at saasopen.com. In last week's episode, we talked with Becca Kay, co-founder and COO of Dingus and Zazzy, an unlimited marketing subscription that companies can hire for less than the cost of a full-time employee. Becca is fascinating and definitely knows how to stand out and be noticed. If your company needs more of that, that is a great episode for you. And our founder last Tuesday was Marcin Chacon, founder and co-CEO of PriceFX. PriceFX is a next-generation pricing solution. They have over 400 employees and clients in 40 countries. He shared lessons on resilience, replacing out-of-touch solutions to bring pricing to the people, and the PriceFX culture, which is amazing, including how he uniquely connects with employees in every single office across the globe on his Red Shoes Around the World tour. So if you missed either one of those, queue them up and give them a listen. My guest this week is Nathan Miller, a landlord, real estate investor, and entrepreneur. A software developer by trade, Miller founded Rentec Direct in 2009 after he began investing in real estate and managing the properties himself. More than a decade later, his passion project has grown into the third largest property management solution, working with more than 25,000 landlords and property managers across the country. Rentec Direct remains 100% organically grown and debt-free today as the company continues to make advancements in customer experience, innovation, and technology. Give some big love and appreciation to someone who is accelerating the rent race, Nathan Miller. Hey, Nathan, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Thanks, Jeff. Happy to be here.
Well, tell me a little bit about your background, how you kind of started out system administration and got into the rental world.
Yeah, this was quite a while ago now, so I'm reaching back into my memory vault. But back late, probably 2006, 2007, I was in the internet service world, and we had an internet service provider provided nationwide internet service, and that was my job. Loved it. Through that job, I learned how to develop, write software on a limited scale. I kind of taught myself, just kind of what needed to be done. And through that, I purchased a few properties, just kind of started building my own rental portfolio where, I bought a condominium and then I moved out of it and I rented it. And then I picked up a couple foreclosed properties, started renting those. And I was managing these all myself. And if you've managed your own rental properties, which I know you have, managing one or two, you can handle it. You can keep track of everything in your head or on spreadsheets. But once you start getting around 5, 6, even 10 properties, it becomes a lot of work, a lot of stuff to remember.
Yes.
Who did pay rent? Who's late? Did I charge them a late fee on time? And what maintenance needs to be done to what property? And that's what happened to me. As soon as I started getting around 6 or 7 properties, it was just a little bit too much to keep track of. And so this is 2007. I went, on the search for a software program that would help me out. I worked in the internet. I did internet, so I had access to, everything out there, and just wanted to find something that would make my life easier, assuming there was a software program out there that would do it for me.
Right. There has to be something, right?
There has to be something. Yeah. So I searched high and low, and couldn't find anything. There was a few out there for large property managers, but it was certainly nothing that I could afford for, my small portfolio. So, when I deemed it futile, nothing was out there. It's like, well, I know how to write programs. I'll just write one that's going to help me out, that using myself as kind of a model. I'm going to write a program that makes my life easier, keeps track of my finances, makes tax life easier, come April. Keeps track of my maintenance, all that important stuff. And it was, pretty basic stuff back then. But I decided to write a program while I was at it. Let me just make it so anyone can create an account on this same program. There's got to be landlords out there, with the same problems I have.
100%.
So I'll just make it available to everyone else too. And so I just made it a free program. And, it turned out a lot of people started using it. So that was, a long time ago. It was 10 plus years ago at this point. And we've come a long way since then. I bet you have more questions about where we are now, but that's kind of the beginnings.
Yeah, I love the story. And it's definitely something that I wish I had back when I first started out doing properties, because you're exactly right. A few you can keep track of in your head or spreadsheets, and then it just becomes unmanageable. And every one that you add, it doesn't just add a little bit of complexity. It's a lot more. And even simple maintenance things, did I do that? Did they pay rent, late fees? Just keeping track of it all really gets to be difficult. And especially when you get into, bigger. I know we talked a little bit about multifamily and, people who are managing larger numbers of properties. You really have to have a solution that way.
Absolutely. And, back then I had a full-time job too. So it's not like this is all I was doing. My focus was on my full-time job. So this was, like a lot of other investors, that they're not only doing investment. They're,
right.
they're doing something else, that actually pays the bills, when they're starting out. And that was my situation too. So it was nice to have something that keeps track of things while I'm working.
So how do you think it's different in building a solution where you're actually experiencing the problem versus, creating something for a problem that you've heard about or you think may be a problem in the marketplace?
Well, I was having a pain point every day, and it bothers me when I forget things. I want to be the guy that's always 5 minutes early to a meeting. And everyone always says, he shows up on time and he pays his bills on time. I always want to be that guy. And so I get frustrated if anything is pushing me outside of that comfort level. And that's what started happening is I was running late on things, and even if it was only a day late, that still bugged me enough to want to be able to do something about it. So being in the problem made it a very urgent matter for me to do something about it. It also helped me because I understood what it means to be a landlord and what you have to do as a landlord. I understood the ins and outs of that, so I could be front and center, like writing the software for a landlord, and making it work the best it possibly could for a landlord. In contrast to being outside of a solution, if that was me and I wasn't a landlord at the time, I would have approached it probably completely different. I would have looked at accounting platforms and tried to, mimic stuff that works.
Right. Right.
Effectively, rewriting QuickBooks, which doesn't need to be done. QuickBooks is, does its job, but accounting for a landlord, and now we work with a lot of property managers, is an entirely different beast.
So how has the solution evolved over the years from single landlords to property management?
We focused on single landlords for quite a while because that was my whole intent, was to help out landlords. And a few years into it, once it became a product, we hired some staff and we started expanding the program. We got hundreds, and then we started getting thousands of landlords using the system. And often landlords, they end up going over to property management eventually. Sure. It's, it becomes too much, or the portfolio gets too big, and I'm going to put this to someone who this is what they do for a living. Eventually, I ended up doing that myself. But what ended up happening is landlords would transfer their portfolio over to a property manager, and they would print out all the reports and everything the property manager needed. And the property manager would be like, hey, what were you using to manage this? And we started getting property managers interested in our system because our system was better than what they were using.
That's great.
So we kept getting, inquiries from property managers just saying, hey, can we use your system? We're like, well, back then, you can, but it doesn't include, everything you would need for, trust accounting and managing properties on behalf of owners. So the interest, kept coming to us and kept coming into us. So eventually, we bowed to the pressure, decided to add those features in, and we created our landlord version. We call it Rentec Pro. Our property management version, we call Rentec PM for property managers.
Okay.
And we baked in all the features needed for property managers. So that's one evolution. We've gone through, so many upgrades in the software from, just basic functionality to modern web technologies to adding all the features that both landlords and property managers need. So we've been through a lot of little evolutions. Adding in tenant screening was a huge one. That was one of the first ones we jumped into because both groups need to be able to screen prospective tenants before they place them in their properties.
Absolutely.
They want someone good. They want someone who's not going to tear the place up. And most of all, they want someone who's going to pay rent. And so we built those features, all the main tenant screening reports that property managers need into the software. And then online payments was another huge evolution of the software. I would say, when more younger people started paying, but, almost everybody is in on this phase now of paying online.
Right.
But back then, it was mostly the younger people that were requesting like, hey, I want to pay via an app. I just want to, people were used to, like, back then PayPal was, the big, person to person transfer because the Venmos and Cash Apps and Zells didn't exist back then. But people would want to, how do I PayPal my landlord? And you're really not supposed to do that. PayPal doesn't, support those. Even back then, it didn't. So creating that functionality and building it in so tenants can, just open up their app and make a payment to their landlord. That was critical, and that's probably one of the biggest selling points of our software today is automating that rent payment process.
That's so helpful. My automation back in the old days was give me 12 post-dated checks. That was payment automation, that automated payments, right? And it's so archaic compared to what is available today.
Yeah, definitely. It's gotten so easy today. In fact,
yes.
It's we usually promote landlords encourage their tenants to just schedule their payments. If rent's due on the 5th, just schedule a payment to be made on the 5th every month. And if payday is on the 6th, make that payment on the 7th. Just set that so it's an automated scheduled payment, which is great for both parties. The tenant, doesn't have to think about it. They don't have to write a check. go through the
Right.
trouble of mailing it, or even think about logging in to make a payment. If it's automatic, it just happens. If it's automatic the day after the paycheck, deposits into their account, even better, because it goes in, comes right back out.
Right.
And then for the landlord, it's even huger for the landlord, because there's some stat out there, and I don't know exactly what it is, but off the top of my head, tenants that pay rent via an automated schedule. I actually looked this up during COVID a lot. We reported on a lot during COVID because it was such a dramatic difference of how many tenants were late or not paying rent that didn't have their online payment scheduled versus the ones that did. And it turned out it was something to the tune of like 6% of tenants, might have had a late payment if they were using online payments.
Wow.
But it was somewhere in the tune of 20 to 30% of those that didn't. So those landlords that have trained their tenants to just do online payments were like, what is that? It's 22, 23% more likely to have their rent paid on time through the whole COVID pandemic. COVID was a big deal. A lot's, changed since then, but those stats still hold true. They might just be a smaller percentage.
And that completely makes sense. It's definitely easier for everybody all around.
You bet. One other thing is the emotional attachment to writing the biggest check that you write every month. As a tenant, if your rent's $1,500 a month, writing a $1,500 rent check when your take-home pay is $3,000, it's a big deal. That hurts. It hurts to write a check that big, and you have to do it every single month. And as a tenant, when you're paying a bill that big, it's like it's always on your mind. Like, well, is there a cheaper place? Should I be moving somewhere cheaper?
Mm-hmm.
But in contrast, to most of us with mortgage payments, it just comes out automatically. You don't even think about it.
It's like magic. We never see it.
When rent comes out magically, there's no emotional connection to writing that check anymore. So It actually makes the tenant enjoy where they're living more than when they're writing checks. This is what we found.
That's a really, really good point. Not something I thought about, but it completely makes sense. Yeah, that emotional connection to those checks, or those big expenses. That's a tough thing. Well, in growing, I know you've grown quite a bit. What have been the challenges to growth, as a leader, and how have you tackled those?
Yeah, growing any company is definitely tough. I feel like for ours, we've had a lot of troubles finding employees. And I hear this everywhere. But around here and all around the country, it's been really tough, especially in the last few years, finding employees to fill positions. In our town, we have one of the funnest places to work, one of the coolest buildings. It's right downtown, so all the restaurants and all the fun stuff is, literally across the street. So there's like no barriers to entry to working here. Everyone loves it. Yet, when we put a listing out for a position, it is just so hard to get qualified people to show up for an interview. So that's been a really tough challenge. I know I share that among many other entrepreneurs I know. They just say the last few years it's been really tough to fill positions. And I don't know if anyone really has their thumb on specifically why that is, but it does seem to be common.
It is,
especially on the West Coast, but I think it happens, it's happening nationwide. So I don't know what the mindset is with people looking for work today, but it's changed from how it used to be. We used to be able to put out a listing, and we'd have 30 or 40 applications roll in the next day. And so we'd be filtering through all these amazing applications, just deciding which amazing candidate to hire. That's really nice, but those are days of the past. So that's been challenging, because we need to be able to fill those seats. Whatever we're hiring for, we got to be able to fill it in order to grow. Because one of our core principles around here, especially in customer service, is we're the best. We are the best property management software company. Provides the best customer service of all of our competitors. And we've won a ton of awards for that, but it's something that we really hold true to. So I tell everybody in every department, but especially customer service, if we're hitting 70, 80% capacity, I want to hire now, because that means, we're close enough to 100 where I would rather have everybody have a little bit of extra spare capacity than any chance that we're providing bad service because we don't have enough people. So hiring has been tough. I think one of the other ones that really comes to my mind is sales tax compliance. That's kind of a new problem that's occurred for online companies.
That's big.
Since 2018, right? The whole Wayfair South Dakota thing changed life as you know it for every online company.
Right.
And, we hit it head on. We saw it coming. We researched every state we needed to be, filing in, and we bit the bullet and bought really expensive software to, be able to manage all those tax transactions. And then every month, we write a pretty good size compliance bill to pay all those taxes every month. So it was a big deal. It took almost a year of development time and my time to be able to comply with that. And it was so sudden because that happened in 2018. In 2019 or so, we started hitting the thresholds and having to really get into it really quick. So that was a tough one. I think that's a tough one for a lot of other companies also. And I think there's a lot of companies out there that either don't know about that or they haven't, they think it doesn't apply to me.
Right.
And
right.
unfortunately, the way the laws are written, it's really easy to what they call have nexus in a particular state. A lot of states, all you have to do is have 100 invoices to that state.
Right.
If you're a SaaS company, one customer is 12 invoices in a year. So that means you only need, 8 or 9 customers in a state, and suddenly you have to collect and pay sales tax there. So it's a big deal. And figuring that one out probably added a few gray hairs.
That is a really tough one. And you're right. A lot of SaaS companies don't realize that until a lot of times it's when it's too late, when they get notices or they get fines or things like that. We use a company called Paddle that they take care of all of that. And because it's pretty complex because not only do you have 50 states, well, then you have different counties that are different or cities or other jurisdictions that have their own special rules. So yeah, having a solution like that, it's really good that you thought about that early on and took that on because so many companies don't until it's too late.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think you want to be ahead of. If you're behind it, it's impossible. It's very hard, almost impossible to go and retroactively collect sales tax from your customers.
Right.
If you invoiced them, a year ago, and now you're like, hey, I forgot to charge you sales tax a year ago. Most of them aren't going to be very happy about paying that. Right. And then, and so if they're not paying it, that means the states actually collect that directly from you as a SaaS company. And that can be a huge, huge chunk of change for all the back taxes plus all the penalties and fines. So our goal was I don't believe the gray area, we're very black and white. And, when I saw that coming, just we have to do it. It's going to be really expensive. It's going to take a ton of time, but I want to be on the right side of this and just get it done. Not that I like sales tax.
Right.
I'm from
anybody?
Oregon. Well, I'm from Oregon. We've never heard of sales tax.
You don't even know what that is.
It's a non-existent principle up here. So when Texas tells me I have to collect sales tax on, as an Oregon company on my Texas customers, what? But it is true. You have to do it.
So challenge of hiring people, that is something that's really common. How have you done that? And then how have you continued to build, especially when you have, service as a core value of what you're doing and providing, outstanding service to your client base? How do you build those values in? Do you hire them? Do you train them? How have you managed to keep that as you've continued to grow?
Yeah, we hire for personality and quality before skill set. And, it'd be amazing if someone walked in the door, for a customer service position and they had 10 years of customer service experience, plus they had this amazing glowing personality that, worked for our company.
Right.
But often that's not the case. Usually you get one or the other. And if we are we're choosing between the person that is going to fit in well here and can be trained to service our customers really good. So I think that's it. I sit in on every single interview. I want to be involved in the hiring process, and all my questions are more personality related. I want to get to know the person and how well they're going to treat their fellow employees, how well we're all going to get along, and how well they're going to treat the customer, because that's the most important thing to me. So we really, given that we don't get as many applicants as we used to in the old days, we just take our time. We start early. If it used to take 2 weeks to hire someone new, find and hire someone new. And now it takes 3 to 5 months.
Wow.
And so we just now, instead of being at 80% capacity, I want to know when people are at 70% capacity because I know we need that much extra lead time before hiring someone.
So have you gone the remote route or all your team in-house?
It's kind of another one of our principles. We do keep it all in-house. We don't have any outside employees. Everyone is right here in Grants Pass, Oregon. And part of that is me. And one of my convictions when I started a company is I really enjoy going to the office and, hanging out with people and, having that group and that camaraderie with people. And in the last company I worked for, we sort of had that, but there was some outsourcing going on. And it just didn't feel good. I really didn't like that. And between, time differences, personality differences, language barriers, everything that goes into either outsourcing or having remote employees, it just didn't feel very good to me. So I've been pretty committed to always have all of our staff right here. And so far, we've been able to do that.
That's good. I love to hear different perspectives on that. And I think that's unique. Especially, given the last couple of years, a lot of companies have gone remote or hybrid. And, I like that you want that camaraderie. I think that's one of the key ways to keep that culture intact is Facetime. It's being around people. It's bumping into them on a regular basis. It's having them right there instead of, the little 2x2 box on the screen,
You bet. Yeah, it's been something. It's also a lot more fun. I feel like just have people in person. We do things around here, and this is kind of our culture. And a lot of people think we're a startup just because we act like a startup because they come in here and everyone's having fun. There's music playing, people are playing ping pong, or some other game. But that's just like part of the culture that we've now had for almost 14 years, and we've kept it up. And I walked in just a minute ago. I went for a walk right before our call. And I see two people outside playing ladder ball, and
that's great.
It's just one of those fun games where you throw the balls and they wing around and they land up there. But every month we've got a different tournament, and their games or their contests of some sort, just to keep everyone engaged and doing fun stuff. And we devote a fair amount of time, in our day to just having fun. I think that keeps us a really happy group and keeps a good, nice family atmosphere going on here.
That's really good. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to ask Nathan about competing with some larger companies and how he has differentiated Rentec to compete with those in a really unique way. Right after this.
Champion Leadership Group helps B2B SaaS entrepreneurs successfully cross Death Valley. 1 in 40,000 companies grows to $10 million in revenue. The rest stay small or die along the trail. Champion Leadership Group is on a mission to solve that and to help SaaS founders grow to $10 million and well beyond through a unique, proven process that is mentor-guided, results-focused, and peer-supported so that SaaS founders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs achieve sustained, profitable growth, positively impact their community, and enjoy the freedom they became an entrepreneur for in the first place. Accelerate revenue and get free SaaS growth tools at championshipleadership.com.
Welcome back to SaaS Fuel. My guest today, Nathan Miller, founder and CEO of Rentec Direct. And Nathan, I know you compete with some really big players in the space. How have you differentiated? And how have you competed with companies maybe bigger, more well-funded, venture-funded companies? How do you differentiate?
Yeah, well, that is something super unique about us. Is unlike pretty much everybody else out there, at least in our market. We're not funded.
I love that.
Our entire funding model is the $300 I took out of my pocket, in 2007 to buy an old used server, and that was it. That was it. We've never received a dime of outside money from this company. It's always grown. I like to say it's grown organically. I put a lot of blood and sweat into it, to start with, but beyond that, we've grown on all of our own merits. Our profits drive our marketing and keep the company running. So that is challenging because it's different from how a lot of companies do it.
You don't just get to throw money at problems, right? You actually have to solve them.
You do have to solve them, and you have to be a little bit more creative because the difference in growing a company organically like ours versus, receiving 10 or $20 million up front, entirely different model.
Yes.
We grow slowly and steadily and have to maintain a profit margin. Whereas, everyone else, profit margin is the last thing on their mind. They hire, 200 people suddenly, they try to blast through something really quick, and it's all about market share before they sell their company.
Right.
And very different models. So because we don't have that funding, especially back in the beginning, we didn't have that very much margin to work with. We did have to get a little bit more creative in how we attract customers and how we keep things going. So I'd say, back when we kind of started, we had fewer competitors than we do now. But one of our strategies back then was just to be present in prospective customers' minds. And since we didn't have the money to buy all this advertising that most people do these days, we would write articles. We'd get on the front page of Google somehow, to get in our customer's head about like, hey, Rentec Direct, this is what they do. And how that's matured over the years is through our blog and all the writers that we hire today to write content. And all of our content is related to property management, landlording activities. And, half the things as a property manager you might Google, we have an article about them, maybe more than half nowadays. We've been doing this a long time. So that's kind of a way that we've invested in our blog over the years to create all these articles. And that blog pays dividends. It takes a little while, but it pays dividends years later in bringing all that traffic in organically. So you don't necessarily have to pay for that traffic anymore. So that was kind of something we decided to do. It was it's an upfront investment because you're either paying writers or you have staff doing it.
Right.
In our case, it's mostly our staff that does it. But those have brought in a lot of customers that we wouldn't have got since we don't have those marketing dollars. The other main thing I would say is every company has to differentiate themselves somehow. And our big differentiator has always been our customer service. We have consistently always gotten like top scores from our clients directly, from third parties like Gartner that have reviewed us. We have a whole room full of awards for our customer service downstairs that they keep sending us. It's beautiful. I love seeing them.
That's great.
We get another box that has like, you got the Gold Stevie Award this year, for the third year in a row. Things like that feel really good because those are third-party metrics comparing us to others and how well we're doing. So we definitely differentiate ourselves by providing amazing support, and that's from the customer who has 1 unit with us to the customer that has 6,000 units with us. It doesn't matter. Both of them can call us, and we'll pick up, or we'll call them right back if we're all on the phone. They can all chat with us. They can all email us, which especially today is very different from our main competitors who they only offer support, live support, if you have, so many units or if you're paying them, $400 or $500 a month. And then I keep hearing it, but everyone's outsourcing their support these days.
Right.
I just heard one of our biggest competitors just outsource their support. So it's overseas support now. And that has its own challenges and often, doesn't provide as good a quality support as if you have the actual employees that know the software really, really well supporting it. So we're going to keep doing that. That's one of our core principles is just mind-blowingly amazing support. And we're going to keep doing that because that keeps people here. It keeps our clients with us because they love it.
That's really smart. I think that's, it really is a differentiator because a lot of companies, as they grow, they really kind of grow out of that smaller customer and stop servicing them or, try and push them out, which is sad. But it is something that is really, admirable, that commitment to serve all customers the same, whether they're big, whether they're small, they're still important. And so I think that is something that is a real differentiator instead of trying to push out the low end of the market.
Yeah, and sticking true to your roots. I remember where we came from. I was that landlord who had 5 units, and I want our customer service treating that new landlord, that just got their 5th unit, just as well as they're treating, mega property manager who has, 6,000 units calling us. We're that company that's always nice to our clients, no matter their size.
So looking back at your journey, what advice would you give somebody, in the earlier stages, maybe 2, 3, 5 million, on the journey, what advice would you give them to move forward?
Well, probably the biggest advice I could have used would have been start marketing earlier. Start thinking about marketing earlier. It's, I'm a tech guy. I'm a nerd. I like to, write code and read tech blogs and look at servers and stuff. That's what I really enjoy. So that's where this company started, and just focusing on that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until, probably 6 or 7 years in that we actually thought about, like, we should be thinking about a marketing plan and how, we're growing right now, but how are we going to be growing in 3 years, and is it going to be enough? And how, if something changes, if how customers are finding us today changes in the future, how are we still going to be getting customers or expanding upon what is working today? So we waited too long on that. If we had started earlier, we probably would have had an easier time with growth. We would have spent a lot less money on AdWords,
Sure.
And all those profits then could have been reinvested back in the company for growing faster even. But that's probably the biggest lesson I would take, and that I would tell someone is, like, have marketing on your mind. That needs to be, if it's not on your mind, it needs to be on one of your core employees' minds. In year one, not in year 7.
So is that a challenge as a technical founder, thinking about other things outside of the technology?
Definitely. And I feel lucky that, I have a tech background, because I was able to write the first version of our software. And, that's something that a lot of founders don't have. They don't have that tech background, so they have to hire that person or pay for that.
And hope that the person gets it right.
Absolutely.
It's hard to transfer that vision over to somebody else. So that's definitely an advantage.
Yeah. So I think anything outside of, what I know, because I have a strong belief in customer service, and I know all the tech stuff. But marketing was a total foreign concept to me. So spending money on marketing was also like, oh, well, that's just like burning money. Why would you pay for Google AdWords? Things like that. But take a long time to wrap my brain around, like, okay, well, here's the actual value of this, and here's when and how it's going to pay off. So understanding that, I think, is critical. I still have a hard time with it today, but I definitely am a lot closer than I used to be.
Yes. I think we're all learning, all learning and continuing to grow. And I think back some of the dumb things I did and just cringe. I mean, even 5 years ago, like, what was I thinking? And it's just that learning and growing process. You're always learning.
So true. And you have to be adapting too. Our company is nowhere near the same, as it was when we started. Everything changes. The world's changing, people are changing, technology especially is changing. So keeping up with it and adapting is very critical.
Without a doubt. What role have mentors played in your success?
I've probably would say I've learned almost everything from mentors, or at least they've gotten me started. And this goes very back to the beginning when I was 20 years old, and one of my mentors is like, "You need to buy a house. You can't be renting. You're throwing money away renting." And at 20 years old, no one's thinking about buying a house.
Right.
It's just unheard of. And but he told me why. He talked me into it. We went and searched. He even helped me, with terms and here's how mortgages work, all this kind of stuff. And I bought a condominium. It was the cheapest thing in town, but I think it was $40,000 or $43,000 was my first property purchase. It's the only thing I could afford, of course. But it was yours. It was mine, and the mortgage payment on that was less than I'd be paying rent somewhere comparable. So it actually worked out really good because I was saving a little bit of money, building some equity, and little did I know that one condominium purchase, that I ended up renting later would end up, getting me on a path to becoming a property investor, becoming a landlord, and ultimately writing this software, which the software has changed my life and so many people's lives. So I really appreciate the advice that I received back then. Throughout, beyond that, learning how to run a business, I learned that through the same mentor. He was amazing, and he eventually became, my business partner, or technically back then I became his business partner. In that business, I learned so much from him. And then others in the other landlords in the community, local and remote, I got to learn so much from them, both prior to creating Rentec Direct and then after. learning from them about how could this be better? I built this to work for me, but how could it work better for you? Because not everyone's minds think the same way. And so that's been one of our goals too, is like, let's make it work, make it simple, but we want to accommodate as many people as possible.
Right. Well, where can people find out more about you and about Rentec Direct online?
Yeah, go to our website. It's rentecdirect.com, RENTEC direct.com. In fact, tomorrow we should have a brand new video up there that we just had created, which actually tells our origin story, a little bit about Rentec Direct. By the time this publishes, I'm sure it's going to be up there. So
that's great.
Click on the video demonstration when you get up there, and then check out the About Us. It tells a little bit more about our story, where we came from, how we've grown. Probably fills in a few of the pieces that I forgot here. So there's a great place.
Excellent. And we'll make sure and link all of that in the show notes as well. And of course, if you have property 1, 2, 10, 6,000, then you need Rentec Direct, because this is something I really wish that I had back when I was doing this. So it's a great solution, solving a big problem for landlords, big and small. I appreciate you being on SaaS Fuel today. It's a great conversation.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's been fun. Enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks again, Nathan, for coming on the show and sharing your journey and perspective. Learn more about Nathan and Rentec Direct at rentecdirect.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com, where you can also subscribe and follow the show on whatever platform you like. Everyone who subscribes this week will receive a free Get Out of Doghouse card. I can't guarantee it'll work, but if you're anything like me, you'll probably need it sooner rather than later. Join us Thursday on our SaaS Fuel Expert Series, where our guest is Sarah Hawley, founder and CEO of Growmotely. Remote work unlocked explosive growth for her companies, and now she and Growmotely do the same for thousands of other companies. Next week, our SaaS founder is Drew D'Agostino, CEO and founder of Crystal, a personality data platform that helps businesses understand their customers and build more emotionally intelligent sales teams. Amazing stuff. You won't want to miss either one of these, so be sure and check it out next week. And until then, big love, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.